You think sanity means agreement. You fit your thoughts into accepted shapes and call this health. Anything that does not fit looks dangerous. You name it chaos, collapse, failure. Yet a doubt appears. What if agreement is not the same as truth? Shams Tabreez confronted this doubt directly. He said that what appears as madness may be the mind refusing a false order. He challenged the habit of calling obedience wisdom and calling disruption illness. He asked whether confusion is always a defect, or sometimes the beginning of honest seeing. If your calm depends on defending approved ideas, is it calm or avoidance? And if a break in your thinking exposes what is borrowed, is that breakdown or a chance to begin again? You test this thought against your own life. You notice how often you seek approval before you trust the conclusion. You track the pattern. You agree. You are praised, and you feel safe. You disagree. You are questioned, and you doubt yourself. Your certainty rises and falls with response. Shams Tabreez described this as dependence on echo. The mind listens for its own reflection in other minds and calls that reflection truth. He warned that such dependence turns reason into performance. You realize how quickly you adjust language to avoid friction. If your measure of sense is acceptance, then what guides you when acceptance costs you honesty? And if honesty begins where performance ends, who are you without the audience? Shams Tabreez lived among scholars who valued balance, restraint, and structured learning. They trusted definitions. They trusted continuity. Shams did not attack knowledge. He attacked possession of knowledge. He met forms with questions and questioned the self that clung to forms. To many, his speech looked unstable because it would not settle for the security of repetition. Yet his challenge was precise. Examine the mind that needs consensus more than it needs accuracy. For some, this produced fear. For a few, it produced awakening. The difference was not intelligence, but willingness. Who can learn when learning requires the loss of a fixed role? Who can stand when standing requires the release of borrowed ground? Shams Tabreez taught that the self confuses order with reality. Order is a tool. Reality is what remains whether order pleases us or not. When the mind mistakes the tool for the truth, it defends the tool at any cost. He named this the first confusion, protecting coherence instead of seeking accuracy. He did not propose carelessness. He proposed sincerity. Sincerity asks, what is actually here when I stop arranging outcomes? Sincerity allows a thought to fail if it is false, even when failure is inconvenient. Under this teaching, the experience called madness may be the moment a false structure can no longer hold. The collapse is not the loss of awareness. It is the loss of pretense. If pretense ends, what remains to protect? And if nothing false needs defense, what exactly is threatened? You feel the tension. Part of you wants clear answers now. Part of you knows that haste only restores habit. You fear that pausing will weaken your position. You fear that questioning will erase your identity. Shams explained this conflict as a negotiation between two rulers. One ruler is control. The other is truth. Control seeks stability first and accuracy later. Truth seeks accuracy first and allows stability to follow. When control leads, discomfort is treated as error. When truth leads, discomfort becomes information. You see the cost of each ruler. Control preserves an image. Truth preserves integrity. Which ruler has guided your recent decisions? And when outcomes pleased others, did they also align with your own clearest recognition? You start to notice a different rhythm in thinking. Instead of pushing every doubt away, you allow it to complete its question. Some questions resolve quickly. Others stay. Shams called this endurance of not knowing. He did not glorify uncertainty. He used it. Uncertainty becomes a lens that exposes assumptions. You realize that many of your rapid conclusions were methods for avoiding this exposure. The shift feels simple. You do less in order to see more. You remove the pressure to defend a position, and you watch what remains without defense. A paradox appears. The less you insist on certainty, the clearer certain points become. If clarity can increase without pressure, was pressure helping, or was it hiding confusion under speed? At a certain point, the mind stops bargaining with appearance. It admits what it knows and stops pretending to know what it does not. Shams described this as the end of performance. In that end, reasoning does not disappear. It becomes clean. Conclusions are smaller but more exact. Claims are fewer but more solid. You see how much energy was spent protecting identity rather than testing insight. The supposed madness was only the refusal to return to a comfortable error. The supposed sanity was only the ability to repeat that error without pause. When repetition no longer governs, a different measure appears. Coherence with what is, not with what pleases. If the measure changes, how does your language change with it? Stillness here is not a scene. It is a function. Thought stops pushing against itself. Judgment reduces to what is needed for understanding. Shams said that awareness does not need spectacle to be complete. It needs honesty to be accurate. In this stillness, fear reduces because there is less to protect. You are not defending a role, a past statement, or a reputation. You are evaluating a claim. The difference is quiet but decisive. You notice that even disagreement no longer feels like danger. It feels like data. If disagreement becomes data, what does agreement become? And if both are data, what does the mind serve other than its task of clear recognition? Integration means procedure. Shams offered simple procedures in spirit, not in form. First, pause before you defend. Second, state what you actually know and separate it from what you assume. Third, let a conclusion fail if new evidence disallows it. Fourth, reduce the need for victory and increase the need for accuracy. Fifth, track the moments you edit yourself for approval. Examine them later without blame. These steps are not techniques for control. They are agreements with truth. Over time, they reduce noise without forcing silence. You remain active, but less reactive. You remain thoughtful, but less performative. The mind becomes useful again, not a stage for identity, but a tool for understanding. Which step challenges you most right now, and why? Return to the opening question. What heals the mind? Shams Tabreez's answer is not spectacle. It is sincerity. Healing arrives when the need to appear coherent yields to the need to be true. What society calls madness may be the refusal to reinstall a persuasive error. What society calls sanity may be the talent for maintaining one. You do not need to reject order. You need to refuse false order. You do not need to seek confusion. You need to let confusion finish its work when pretense has cracked. In this view, the mind is not broken. It is realigned. Agreement becomes optional. Accuracy becomes essential. What remains when approval quiets and recognition stands alone? A simple statement. This is what is.